Hey everybody, welcome to the Double Stuff Podcast. We're double the hosts, double the topics, double the fun, and I'm Sarah.
I'm Charity.
I'm Alan.
And I'm Dan.
And guys, we are in our 4th year, our 21st season. So we've been going for a long time now, over 200 episodes. We do want to let the listeners know, and I guess us, because it was no surprise, but this is going to be our final season of the Double Stuff Podcast. Like I said, we've been going pretty good for 4 years now, but you know, all good things must come to an end. But we won't dwell on that for too much longer. But we just wanted to let you, the listeners, know about that. But we still got some other fun episodes in store, so don't switch that dial or whatever people call it now.
The dial.
Don't close that tab.
Don't close that tab.
That's a better one. Yeah.
So we still got a whole lot more episodes to do, so just hang tight. We just want to let you guys know that. But today, we're going to do something that we always do because we're big media people. We work in this industry. But one thing we haven't talked about, or maybe we've mentioned it, you know, maybe when we haven't been recording, is movie tropes. Mm-hmm. Now, there's good and bad to it, and I figure some movies and TV shows, you know, maybe some of that is unavoidable if done right, but there's some that just become so cliche that it's just kind of fun to make fun of or roll your eyes at and stuff. So anyway, I was just scrolling through Reddit and I was just checking to see, you know, what a lot of people were saying is some of their most annoying movie tropes. I just want you guys to see if you agree with that or if there's any extras that you have. Okay. So I'll go ahead and give one that I think is this one has always bugged me as a kid. But like if there's a killer on the loose or a ghost or a monster of some sort and the protagonist is trying to convince people that something is here but nobody believes them no matter what. Right. So that's been something even as a kid that bugs me, and I'm like, it's right there. And like it takes absolutely mayhem for people to be like, oh, he was right, kind of thing.
There really are alligators in the sewer. Yeah. Amazing.
This isn't a ghost, but the first thing that comes to mind is Sesame Street, because whenever Big Bird would talk about Mr. Snuffleupagus, nobody would believe him, even though he was a real character until I think years later.
It was the mid-1980s, so they went...
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they went many years with only Big Bird seeing Snuffy.
Joke. Yeah.
So it was a thing that whenever he would,
he started off as an imaginary friend.
Well, he started out as a friend of Big Bird, but he would always leave by the time people were like, "Hey, I want you guys to see my new friend," and he would always be gone.
So the audience got to see.
The audience saw, and Big Bird saw, but whenever they would try to get the humans, nobody would see him. So they always thought Big Bird was lying, or it was an imaginary friend. And finally, I want to say it was around 1985 or so. Everyone finally saw him, and that was like the big deal because it was like, he's real. You weren't lying the whole time.
They were eventually like, this is mean. We should stop making him. Everybody disbelieving him.
Well, they made a big deal because they were like, okay, next time you tell us something, Big Bird, we'll make sure to believe you. I think it was Maria that said that line.
That sounds like something she'd say.
Which I assume it would be because if kids said something to the parents that needed to be believed, it's like, okay, well, you can't trust a grown-up because they're not going to believe you. So sort of similar. Snuffy wasn't a ghost, but it's kind of that same line.
I want to say that was like at least a decade long. It lasted a long time where no one saw him.
Okay.
So, but TV shows, that's a good example. Or just disaster movies in general, right? Like no one believed, or like Jaws. I think Jaws is a good example, with the mayor and no matter what, we're going to keep those beaches open.
That's right.
So, but anyway, that's just always been a trope that's gotten me.
Why would terrorists want to take over Nakatomi Towers?
That's right.
So, but that was just one I thought that would be kind of fun that has always bugged me ever since I was little. You got one, Cher?
So this first one makes me think of Princess Diaries, because a typical trope that you see is when the girl takes off her glasses and lets down her hair or straightens her hair, then all of a sudden this ugly girl turns into the hottest girl in school because curly hair is just ugly, and if you have weak eyes, sorry, you're ugly too,
Yeah.
And all of
Princess Diaries? I thought that was, isn't that She's All That?
She's All That.
Yeah, that's what I think of.
There's so many.
It happens so many times.
So many.
Yeah. Or for any Taylor Swift fans,
Jason Biggs?
She does that in her. She does that in her music video that You Belong With Me, where she's talking to the guy across her
Across
next
the
door
way,
neighbor,
yeah.
and she's got glasses on, and she's just like awkward. But then she shows up at the prom like super beautiful and everything,
Yep.
because either she discovered contact lenses or her eyes were healed, and she doesn't need to. She doesn't need glasses anymore. So.
Well, you ever heard? You see this in old movies too. Like I've watched a lot of movies from the 30s, and they do the same thing. It's just they look more like an old school teacher until they do get made up. Because the old phrase was like, "Men don't make passes at girls who wear glasses."
Really?
I
never heard that one.
That's a really old phrase. It's been around for a long time.
Okay.
So it's either men don't make passes at women who wear glasses, or the opposite sex don't like specs.
Huh.
So that's
Harsh.
been going along for a long time because it's like, oh, glasses.
It's funny because in those old movies, you would
just
have someone
remember
who
that.
just looks really
I don't
beautiful.
smoke and I don't chew and I don't go with girls that do.
But it's so
It's that
obvious
same
when
thing.
it's so obvious when they do, because it's like she's really pretty. They just put a pair of glasses on her, and then she takes it off, and she looks completely different.
Well, that's the
Yeah.
old Clark Kent trope.
like, yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, the
So-
superheroes,
Yeah.
Come on, we all know.
put on the frames with no lenses in them.
They're so thick. It's like I can't tell who that guy is. He doesn't wear the same hairstyle.
Yeah.
He's not the only strong-built guy in the whole
He's
office.
the buffest journalist I've ever seen.
I saw a funny thing on, I think it was Reddit once or whatever, and it was supervillains that were like texting each other, and one of them was like, "You guys, that Clark Kent dude is like," and it's like he's only fighting us like half the time. We just pretend we don't know he's Clark Kent, so he leaves us alone.
That's actually cool. Yeah, you feign ignorance that way. It's like, haha, they got away with it. It's like, no, we've known since day one.
Now, to be fair, when Henry Cavill was playing Superman, he went to Times Square with like Clark Kent glasses, like done as Clark Kent, and people didn't recognize him at the time.
What,
Like
was
he
he-
didn't
was
have
this-
people.
Was this before he got really, really big? Though?
I mean, it was so like they had already done like trailers and stuff. I think it was like partly supposed to be kind of promotional, partly maybe
Okay.
like a late night joke or something like that they were doing it for. But yeah, supposedly he had gone down there done up like Clark Kent, and people weren't like trying to take pictures with him or anything. So maybe it works.
Well, they did that
Little
too
curl.
in Ready Player One. That was like Parsifal's like how do Parsifal doesn't get recognized. She like gives him Clark Kent.
Clark
glass.
Kent says,
And
yeah.
it's totally Parsifal, just like with his hair like parted or something. Yeah.
it's kind of funny because I personally think I look better with my glasses on than off,
Mm-hmm.
as the four bespectacled co-hosts here.
Well, yeah, it's one of those. It becomes your identity
Yeah.
too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm totally glasses on. Like I have contacts, I never wear them.
The thought of sticking something in my eye, this is the only reason why I don't do contacts, because my mom used to wear them all the time when we were younger, all the time. And watching her, even as a kid, watching her do that, I'm like, I couldn't stick anything in my eye.
Oh, it's fun. You know,
It's
stick your finger
fun.
in there, play around.
That's right.
Says the one who just said, "I never wear my contacts."
I don't wear them because I don't like how I look in them. Putting them in is no problem.
Yeah, it's just even thinking about right now, my eyes starting because my eyes start to water
Like
just
twitching.
thinking about it. Yeah, it's like So especially the times where like either she kept it into, I'm like, nope, I'll just stick with these. Thank you very
Okay,
much.
now listen to you is making my eyes water. We should move to
Yeah.
a different list. Okay, Alan, you go
Sympathetic
before we both
watering.
start crying over here.
Okay, I got one. And this one's a little tricky. So, characters sitting in the back of an ambulance with blankets over their shoulders. They don't get an IV or they are not taken to the hospital. And that's kind of like usually at the conclusion of the movie, thinking like the Burbs. You remember the Burbs? And then, so it's kind of like what you were talking about. He's got a neighbor, the Klopeks, that have moved in.
Okay.
And he and a neighbor friend, I forget the actor's name, hilarious. They suppose that they're like burning bodies, like they're killing people and burning bodies. And Tom Hanks at first is not believing, then he does believe. Then they break into the house and they look at the furnace. They're like, yeah. They look at the thermometer and like, yeah, our furnace is supposed to go up to 5,000. Is that normal or something? And then at the end, you think it's the end of the movie because he blows up the house.
Oh my
And Tom
gosh.
Hanks is.
I'm sorry, my phone is turned down.
Does that mean spoiler alert? You're right. you got me.
Spoilers.
You got me. But it's at the end of the movie, and they're going to the hospital. No one's going to the hospital. No.
They're just there to check on them. You
Yeah.
know?
That's right.
Yeah, they sit there and they usually have like a cup of coffee and like, how you feeling? Well, it
Yeah.
could be better. You
Yeah,
know, and
exactly.
I'm like, take you to the emergency room and let's get you looked at.
For some reason, I always think of Die Hard because
Die
it's just
Hard,
like,
yeah.
you know, at the end, it's like a big traumatic experience. And then they're just like, you know, you got this security blanket over your shoulder.
That makes me think of Sherlock at the end of the first episode because
Oh,
Sherlock's
yeah.
like, "Look, I'm in shock. I have a blanket."
That's right.
That's right. I forgot.
Now, since you did the EMS thing, did you ever put the blanket on somebody? Is that
No, I don't remember putting a blanket on
I assume
anybody.
that's really a thing, though, like a shock blanket?
I'm sure that it is. I just don't remember ever using it because we didn't show up to. If we showed up someplace, we were taking somebody to the hospital.
Okay,
And if they
yeah.
didn't want to go, we were just like, let's go.
Yeah.
They were like, well, why don't you sit?
You're embarrassing me.
Yeah, it's just like I got dressed for this. I was sleeping.
It's like, wait, I have to ponder. I have to meditate over what just happened.
I had to put my boots on and zip up.
so much work?
It really was.
So, but yeah, what do you got, Dan?
So I had one that just it makes me laugh, and there's a particular example of it when someone whacks someone on the head and then conveniently go unconscious, usually for the exact amount of time that the story needs them to be, or knocking someone out and having their clothes fit perfectly, like if you're hiding out like a doctor or a security guard or something like that. And the thing that makes me laugh was two things. First off, that's a concussion.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the second thing is, have you guys ever watched Vampire Diaries, the TV show?
No.
I've seen bits and
Okay,
pieces.
so they're vampires, right? So they're all undead anyway. They can't be killed except for like a stake to the heart. So anytime in that show, and it happens every single episode, somebody needs to be out of the way. They just snap their neck, like it's just like snapping their neck, and then they just go to sleep, and then they wake up later on, and everything's fine. But it's like we just need that person out of the way, and I'm like, this is teaching kids the wrong lesson.
the wrong
Don't
lesson.
snap necks.
Don't do that.
That's crazy.
You don't just wake up from that. You don't wake up from getting knocked unconscious.
Yeah.
And we were
You
just
do,
watching Pirates of the Caribbean last night, and so the first one, Curse of the Black Pearl.
Black Pearl, yep.
Or, yeah, and it Orlando Bloom, he's like on his way, he's about to get Elizabeth, gets knocked out, gets woken up just giving the pirates enough time to get away. Yeah.
Yep. Oh yeah.
I know in high school, this is kind of what got me into media in the first place. There was a media camp that we used to go to in high school, and we made short films. And so there was this character named Super Skater, and so he would capture all the bad guys. But
I forgot what's.
I know. And so we had a couple bad guys. You do like, also in the movies, you do like the karate chop to the neck.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Austin Powers style.
Yeah, that was the other one. You do like, "Wah," and then you would just fall over.
Yeah.
And
But they would never hit the neck. They would literally hit like the
shoulder.
outside of the shoulder. So it'd be like chop, and then they would like fall out. Like, oh, my head! Like nowhere near the head.
like the shoulder blade is a very sensitive
the shoulder
part
is
of the body.
connected to the
That
head
has
bone.
evolved into its own genre. Have you guys ever heard of McDojos?
No.
No.
All right, so it's out of shape. It's always old white guys. It's out of shape old white guys that have figured out how to channel chi and the ki and the kai and things like that, to where they don't even they're sitting down in chairs and like an attacker comes and I take my chi and then I put and then they fall to the ground. It's worth checking out. Just look up McDojos. Yeah.
It sounds like it's like done by McDonald's. It's like
Yeah.
karate. So I mean, I guess if you knew how to really get the pressure points, I guess you wouldn't put a lot of effort. But I feel like it's just more
Pressure
just
points
choreography.
are
though.
real.
Like
They-
Spock's Vulcan death grip.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
So we just need to get people to do that. You know, versus just
I've
getting
never
hit
known
with a
anybody
2x4.
to like pass out from a pressure point. Usually it's ow, ow, ow. Uncle.
So, but yeah, that's always a funny one too.
yeah.
To get knocked unconscious. And then talking about having to get the clothes that actually fits.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. That one always like I've never walked by somebody and been like, yeah, I could definitely wear that person's clothes. Like they don't even try to like find out when they're on the movies. They just knock the first person out that comes by.
Yeah.
Also, they never show because I'm like, okay, now they're knocked out. You got to somehow
Lift their dead weight.
yeah, and undress them, and then try to and somehow in the next scene they're already perfectly dressed, shirt tucked in, covering the. And I'm like, man, that's some fast work, man. We're very strong.
Very Fletch.
Okay, I have one. This is another one. Turning on the TV at the exact moment that the information is being given
Yes.
to
Yeah.
the
Breaking
character in the
news.
story. Yeah.
That's right. Breaking news. Yeah.
And it's like,
If you're just joining us,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, that's convenient. I was just joining you.
and it's like, the serial murderer is on the loose, and they're like, and then the eyes get bigger, like, that's the guy I saw.
That's the guy in my house.
Yeah.
I just want somebody on the TV, like it's some kind of an emergency, and they turn the TV on. It's like Spangles, just taste. It's like, okay, gotta get through the commercials. Let's go.
Actually, that would be great, and it's just a bunch of ads. You're like, what? But I do kind of like movies that have like that meta humor, which I guess that's kind of a trope in itself, where you acknowledge the trope.
Yeah.
But that's still pretty fun because we're familiar with it. So yeah, it's just a bunch of ads and stuff, and it's like, get to the murderer,
I think the one you just listed makes me think of old episodes of Gilligan's Island, because usually at the end of the
Yes.
episode, when they missed the rescue ship or something, and the professor will turn on the radio, that still somehow works.
Yeah. Out of coconut.
Yeah. It turns on the radio and it's like, such and such has landed back in Hawaii, and they're like, oh, we missed it again,
Yeah. and then it goes back to almost people not believing because they're like, yeah, they saw these castaways on the island, but he's obviously hallucinating, or or he drank too much salt water, so he's going to be going for an investigation. Like, no, we exist. So, but yeah, no, that's because also using the radio, especially in older movies, they do the same thing as well. This just in kind of thing. So that's always a fun one that we've done to death in a way.
Okay, so I've got one, and this you'll see in rom-coms all the time, because there has to be a moment of conflict where something bad happens while the relationship is going great, and then there's that moment where something bad happens and they're about to break up, and the guy's like, wait, just let me explain, and she's like, it's too late, we're through, and she walks out. And then the guy just stands there without explaining, and just lets her go, So there's always that, wait, let me explain. It's like, no, dude, talk, get your words, use your words, say what happened.
But then there's sometimes the characters don't allow them, like, don't explain, you're fired. It's like that kind of thing. Like, they don't get a chance to get a word in.
Yeah.
And it would solve so much.
Yeah, communication would fix most movies. Most movies would be really boring.
Yeah. or there's the other one. It's like, it's not what it looks like, right?
Yeah.
When they're like, the guy and this other girl's in some compromising position, and the girlfriend's like, what? I thought we had something. And they're like, no, it's not. And it's like they're planning for her surprise birthday, but it looked like she was kissing him or something.
This one's a little bit different too, since we're on the subject of rom-coms. It's usually where the person doesn't stay long enough to hear the full sentence, and so the guy's like, I don't like Cynthia, and then Cynthia leaves and she's upset, and he goes, I love Cynthia. It's like, stay 5 extra seconds, let him finish his thought before you run off and cry and get upset. So once again, communication is key.
It's key.
Also, that's just weird writing because people don't talk like that for real. Like, it's only for the sake of the film. Because I've never known anyone that's like, I don't like her. I love her. Yeah.
And it has to be enough of a pause between those two sentences. Because really, even if you did say that, you would say, I don't like her, I love her. There'd be no 10-second pause for her to be dramatic and exit. Because you're not just going to be like, I don't like her. And then just leave it hanging. That's so awkward.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
What you got, Alan?
Okay, I got one. Where this character is extremely smart. They know every engineering field or computer data breaching, hacking, etc. But they don't know this feeling called love. And there's a practical purpose to that, because typically that type of person, that Q type of person, needs to be available out at all times.
Yeah.
And the only way, I don't know why, but for some reason we can we just have the I guess
Like the ability?
The ability to believe that somebody that knows all the data that needs to be reached at all times, they can't be in a relationship, or they can't.
They're
keep
using all their brain power to keep that.
Or they're too nerdy that nobody would want the weird IT engineer guy. It's like, oh, you have glasses, you're ugly.
Well, not only that, but
you're smart. You're ugly.
they are not allowed to leave the lab. They have to stay in the lab.
Yeah,
it's true.
It's very limiting.
Yeah.
There's a cot in the back with like zeros.
Well, they don't sleep either.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, they can't sleep.
They don't need sleep.
That's
they
right.
just need their computer.
Yeah,
That's all
and
they
they'll
need.
comment on it like, man, it's a good thing I got this Red Bull, or something like that. Do a little product placement.
It
Yeah.
makes me think of like the trope of where like smart people are smart in everything. Like if
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
smart
every
in one
single
thing,
bit.
and like it makes me laugh because Sally and I will have this kind of debate. She hates the part of Jurassic Park where Ian Malcolm explains what chaos theory is to Dr. Sadler, and she doesn't like it just because it's like, well, she's smart, you know, she
Yeah.
shouldn't like with it. And I'm just like, she's a paleobotanist,
Yeah.
and he's a chaostician. Like, there's no reason she would know
crossover.
this thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, he's also explaining it to us, and
For
like,
the
you know,
audience.
even and he probably explained it to Grant, but he doesn't like Grant. Like, they don't get
Yeah.
along in the movie,
Yeah.
so it's like
Yeah.
it makes sense to me. But she's like, you know, she's
Yeah.
smart. She's not. I'm like, not everything.
Yeah. It's true. And then everything could be analyzed to the nth degree. So even stuff like tying your shoes, and it's like, well, the calculations of the ears around the blah blah blah, and you tie it and using this knot and never, you know, and it is one of those things. And then if they do. Finally, like they fall in love with whatever, they don't say "I love you." They say like, you know, oh, our compatibility is in sync with this, and this, which means "I love you."
Yeah.
But you have to use like 30
In
letter
nerd
words.
language.
Yeah,
But it only goes so far, and then the audience loves like smart people to be taken down a peg. So it's always like, we need to do this, and why isn't this working? And then the jack of all trade protagonist just like kicks it or hits it, and then it starts to work.
That was.
You know?
Did you ever watch Eureka? The show Eureka on Sci-Fi. It's a brilliant show, but it's about the main character is a U.S. Marshal, and he's just sort of like a normal dude, and he ends up taking a job in a secret government town that is full of geniuses that work on like the biggest, like most impressive like problems and like future technology, and it's this whole thing. But the thing is every time there's a problem, because there's always problems, right? His like sort of simple like solutions, like his common
kick it.
everyman solutions, are the ones that always save the day, and not the super geniuses.
Yeah.
It's great. You should watch it.
Okay, all right.
yeah, it kind of it's supposed to like counteract that, I guess.
Yeah.
Do we have time for one more? Or should we?
You can squeeze in one more.
Okay. Is it you?
I think
Dan?
so.
Okay.
And mine trope is exposition, which of course, as we all know, is when characters are explaining things to each other that they should already know for the sake of the audience.
Oh, we just talked about that. What a great
You
segue.
see, explanation is
Which is really just bad writing.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
even less of a trope, and it's just like, I don't know how to fit this information
Yeah.
in. So
yeah. I think one of the funniest. And I'm trying to remember what show it was. But it was like, well, after all, I am your brother, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
as if we didn't, as if the characters didn't realize they were related to each other.
I remember it was in the movie Thank You for Not Smoking, and they were trying to figure out how they can endorse cigarettes for a space drama, and they're like, I don't think you can smoke in a zero oxygen atmosphere or something like that. And he's like, don't worry, we'll just fix it in the script. Thank God that whatever was invented or something like that.
That's a valid point.
Yeah.
It is funny. I feel like sometimes when it comes to movie tropes, we're either so used to it,
Or
we forget the logic.
I don't think it's safe to smoke in an all oxygen environment.
Yeah, and it's something I was like, oh yeah, you can't.
Yeah, no, you can't.
That's a whole other plot point.
Unless, thank goodness that one thing was invented.
I need to
that
watch
way.
that again. That was a good movie.
That ex machina machinery we have there.
That's right.
Yeah.
So guys, we're gonna make this a two-parter because whenever we talk about movies and stuff, we never get this finished in one episode, which is that's completely fine because we'll talk about this
Very
in part
typical
two.
of us.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, you have 200 plus episodes that you can binge listen to until we get to part 2. So you can check us out at doublestuffpod.com. That's the website. We're available on all the different podcast platforms. And of course, we're available on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Double Stuff Podcasts. And of course, on Twitter X at Double Stuff P. And that's the letter P.